What's good, everybody? It's Mike Reed, and welcome to My Life Ministries, where leadership, influence, faith, and involvement are the principles that we look to live by every single day. And by us living those principles, it helps us to help youth to become motivated young leaders who implement faith every day in their lives as well. On today, I'm going to be reading out of the New King James Version as well as the Message Bible, and I'm going to be coming from Job 33, verse 14 through 18. And out of the New King James Version, it says, "For God may speak in one way or in another, yet man does not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, while slumbering on their beds. Then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction, in order to turn man from his deed and conceal pride from man. He keeps back his soul from the pit, and his life from perishing by the sword." And in the Message Bible, it says, "God always answers one way or another, even when people don't recognize his presence. In a dream, for instance, a vision at night when men and women are deep in sleep, fast asleep in their beds, God opens their ears and impresses them with warnings to turn them back from something bad they're planning, from some reckless choice, and keep them from an early grave, from the river of no return." And the name of my message today that God has given me is "Beware of the Pit." God is warning you to beware of the pit. God is warning you. And the pit that I'm talking about is a pit to where it's something that it has started years ago in your life. It's a pit that you have started digging when you were a little bitty kid. And it comes from the influence that the devil tries to place on you. And when he comes at you with that influence, that is the moment that he hands you the shovel. And at the time, you don't recognize and you don't realize that that shovel is something that is going to lead you in the wrong direction, or it's almost like you begin to dig your own grave. And when the enemy hands you that shovel through his influence and hands you that shovel through his impact, you begin to dig. And what he does is he just sits back and he just monitors you as you begin to dig. And sometimes he's very bossy, sometimes he's very quiet. But as long as he sees you digging, then he's satisfied. And what happens is that some of us are receiving these warning calls right now, that God is speaking to people and he's given us these warning calls about this pit that we've been digging since we were a little bitty kid. And what happens in that pit is the pit are things that carry a trap mindset. A pit is things that carry a trap mindset. The pit, it carries distractions. It carries self-pity. It carries self-thinking. It carries no strength. It's a prison. It carries no trust. It carries lust. It carries your old self. It carries loss of focus. There's bondage in the pit. There's no control in the pit. There's self-will in the pit, and there's curses in the pit. And there's so many other things that are in the pit that I can go on and on and on and on. But you know what is inside of your pit that you're facing, and things that have been sitting there and that have been waiting on you ever since you've been digging it. So when the enemy comes in, when you were a little bitty child and he gave you that shovel and he caused you to dig this pit, and he continued to cause you to dig this pit. In other words, and what he's been doing is he's causing you to dig your own grave to where you can go in there and you can lay in it. And he wants you to dig it so deep to the point to where you can't climb out of that pit. And so what God is doing is God is giving us warning signs. He's giving us warning signs because we're so close to where God is taking us. We're so close to where God is taking us. There's just a small short distance in between where we are now and where we are going. And God is like, if you can just push yourself and just stay with me, for this little bit of space and this little bit of time, I'm getting ready to take you into something that is going to set you off to another level that I have in you. But the enemy wants us to stay in this pit. And so what's happening is that due to our frustrations, due to our overwhelming desire of our life, we find ourselves falling back into that pit. And some of us, we find that comfort in that pit to the point to where we don't know how we're going to get out of it. See, so what God is trying to warn us is that because we have such a short distance to where God is taking us, the enemy is here to play for keeps. And because he's here to play for keeps, he wants to come in and really just knock you down and cause you to fall back into that pit to where you just continue to dig and continue to dig. But over the years of your life, due to the times that you've been digging, you're already 100 feet down. So you trying to climb out, it seems physically impossible. And what you don't want to do is find yourself going back into that pit, and then you begin to get stuck. And even when you call on God, and God will be there to rescue you at any time when you reach out and you call on to him, but God is warning you right now because the enemy wants you to go back to that pit, and he wants you to go back to that sunken place. So we have to make sure that in our lives and in our walk with God, that we do not allow the devil to keep pushing the shovel at us, and we do not allow the devil to continue to be our boss and continue to boss us around in our life, because we're too close to the promised land, and the enemy knows that. So God, he gave me something in my journal when he told me to write it down, and it says, the pit is where the devil wants you. You're too close to the full promise, so do not forget that. Stay on the path of righteousness so I can use you the way that I need to use you. Stay focused because it is war time. I've given you every tool you need to fight. And the number one tool you need to fight is my word. When the enemy comes at you in any kind of way, what you got to always remember, just like Jesus did when he was praying over those 40 days, he told the devil, he said, it is written. Every time the devil tried to come against him, he quoted something. He said, it is written. We have to have a mindset to when the enemy comes in and tries to throw that pit at us, we have to attack him with the word by saying it is written. So the number one thing is that we have to use the word of God to fight. So trusting in me, don't worry about time, because I control time and I will fix what the devil tried to destroy. You are my child, my servant, my disciple. You are the one that I called, and you are the one that I chose. So hold my hand as we walk together around the pit to the blessing that I have for you. So if we're walking on a path, God has us on a path, to where we're walking with him until it's time for us until he takes us into heaven. So this is the path of our life. So as we're walking down this path, there's going to come an exit to where the pit can either take you and you can go right back down into the place to where the devil had you digging, because we have to remember that the devil can only influence you, can't make you do anything. He can't make you do anything at all. So if he influences you and then he impacts you, then you're the one that makes the choice. So as we're walking down this path and God begins to, and we're walking with him, and we see that pit, and we're at a crossroad to where we say, man, God, I've been going through so much, but now I'm frustrated and I'm overwhelmed, and I have all of this stuff that's going in and these temptations, because God has you in the place to where it's a true trust in him. So when you get to that pit, you're sitting there and you're like, well, what decision do I make? And the more that you allow your mind to get off track, like those things that are inside of that pit, those distractions and everything else, and you focus your mind on everything else that's in there, that's when you're going to enter back in. But God wants to get ready to take you around that pit to where you never have to cross paths with that pit again. So as he takes you around that pit in your life, he's taking you to a gate, and in that gate he has the key, and he's getting ready to open up that gate and allow you to walk in with him, which is going to take you into your land of milk and honey, which is going to take you into your land of harvest. It's just going to take you into your land to where you have acres upon acres of just fruit trees that are so ripe for the picking, to where where you can go upon any one of them and just pick, and you will be able to get your full, you will be able to get your fill, you will be able to get your satisfaction. And while you're in there, there will be no limitations. God's not going to give you a limitation to where he says, hey, I need you to stay direct with me on this path. Because once God takes you into that gate, he's locking the gate and he's cutting off the path that you and him were walking previously, and he's cutting off the pit to where you no longer have to view that, you no longer have to go through that. So whatever your trial was, God is getting ready to take you into that gate, opening up that gate, taking you into your promised land, and then he's going to give you full access to that. And once you begin to get full access to that, there is no limitations. And that is the place that you are going to dwell. That is the place that you are going to rest with him, just you and him in the middle of your promised land, to where you and him can grow stronger. You can reap what he has for you. You can enjoy what he has for you, and what he has for you in that promised land, he's going to begin to show it in the natural. So we have to get our mindsets under control and not allow the enemy to come in and take us to that pit, because that pit is something that we have been digging since we were little bitty boys and little bitty girls, and we got caught up in there and not realizing that over the years that we have dug it so deep, because the enemy, he handed us that shovel when we were 5 years old, when we first went through our first influence by him, when we first went through our first disaster, when we first went through our first, situation and our trials and our tribulation. And only you know what you went through as a kid, to where the enemy said, I'm going to hand you this shovel, and this is the pit that you're going to dig for yourself. And the more that you dig and the more that you dig, the pit will get deeper and deeper and deeper. So we cannot allow ourselves to get caught up in the pit. We cannot allow ourselves to get caught up in the nonsense of what the devil was trying to bring against us. Because like I said, we have a short distance. It's a very short distance from now to the promised land. And when we enter into the promised land, yes, I know that it's flowing with everything that we've been waiting for, but we have to remember that that is the opportunity to where we get to spend time with God. And as we get to spend time with God, with just us, just you and him, that's when God can begin to move in your life. So we have to stay away from the pit, because God is warning you. He's warning you because you're so close to the promise, and he's letting you know, because somebody right now is receiving red flags. Somebody right now is receiving signs that say do not enter. They're receiving signs that say stop. You're receiving signs all in your life that is saying, don't go that way, or don't do this, or don't do that. Begin to listen. Begin to listen, because God is trying to rescue you, and he's trying to save you from going into something that is going to be to the point of no return. He's trying to take you into something he's trying to save you from something that is going to keep you away from the pit. So do not allow the pit to continue to be dug. You are not the you are not the worker who needs to go in there and produce the construction, or go in there and cause and loosen up the soil for that pit. You don't need that. That is not your job, and the devil is not your boss. So you have to understand, stay away from the pit, because God right now, he is warning you. He is warning somebody, because you are too close to the promise. And if you don't take the warning, and if you don't listen to what God is telling you, then I'm telling you right now that pit is going to suck you up. That pit is going to trap you. That pit is going to destroy you. That pit is going to ruin everything that God has promised for you. So stay away from the pit. Drop the shovel and understand who you are. Stay away from the pit, because God is warning you. Your promised land is here, and let God move in you. So all I wanted to do is get on here today to encourage somebody. Stay away from the pit. Don't let the devil trick you. Do not be deceived by the enemy. You're too close to where God is taking you. The gate is getting ready to open. You're getting ready to enter. God's getting ready to lock it, because you've made it. You've made it this far. So let's just keep going that short distance, so we can get what God has called for us to have. So you guys have a wonderful and a blessed day. Be encouraged and stay away from the pit. Thank you for listening.